I'm Michael with ReleaseWorks, where we help you get a body that feels great, moves well, so that you can live a life of joy. Today I'm going to go through how to improve your posture. Standing is kind of a troubling thing for a lot of people. We get up and we don't really reclaim how our body moves, so we're stiff, we kind of get going and we hope everything limbers up, but we end up kind of in this sort of a thing. Our shoulders up, our back like this, neck forward, holding on, even sometimes like this. It can get pretty bad. We might be really tipped forward in the pelvis and curved, and I'm not really exaggerating. This is what we see with people. So one of the best ways to start fixing that is to fix how you stand. And when you tell people to work on their posture, this is usually what you get. They pull their shoulders back. They stick their neck up. This isn't better. This is worse. That's not what we want to do. We need to start from the bottom. And that means if you look down at your feet, they're probably twisted out something like this. They might be like this. You might find you're in a slouch all the time. You might be avoiding the weight on one foot or something. There's lots of problems that are going on. What we're going to do here is take a 5 to 10 minute daily practice to help work through that, and then let it go. I don't want you thinking stiff, rigid thoughts and good posture all day long, because that's stiffer and that's not better. But if you spend 5 to 10 minutes in the morning before you get going, or in the evening before you go to bed, both are great, then you'll find that it gets easier and easier to have better posture without thinking about it. It simply becomes effortless, and that's what we want. So, where you start, you want to get your feet underneath your hips. Not out to the side, not in like this, underneath your hips. And the next thing you want to do is you want to get the inside edge of your feet pointing forward parallel. That's going to feel, for most people, that's going to feel like you've really turned your feet in. You haven't. You've just been walking around with your feet out all the time. So this will feel odd at first. That's okay. That right there might be where you start for a little bit. If that's difficult, then just breathe and feel your way through the tension there in your body as you stay in this position for 5 minutes. If you can last that long, maybe only a minute if that's all you can do. Do that for the next week or two, and that will get easier. When you can move on from there, you want to start noticing what's happened with your knees, because when you brought your toes in, your knees probably ended up pointing way in. So you want to rotate your knees, rotate your hips actually, so that your knees are pointing outward. And we want to get a sense of too much in and a sense of too much out. Play with that. Too much out, too much in, and then find what's neutral, what's in between. Your knees should be pointing over your toes. That will start to correct any fallen arches. That will start to lift. And you'll start to get a subtle sense, maybe even a not so subtle sense, of squeezing through the backs of your glutes and rotating your legs out. Now again, we don't want to go so far, but we want to line things up. That will start giving more lift and support to your pelvis. That will make it easier for you to stand up tall. Okay? That's the base most of us are missing. And it takes a bit to reclaim it. There's all sorts of twists we're going to have to work our way through, but if you stand and breathe like that, that will start to correct things. 5 to 10 minutes at a time if you can. Okay. Next, we want to deal with our pelvis. Most of the time it's twisted and tipped. We want to start finding out what's neutral. So just like we did with our knees, we're going to find out what's too much. Exaggerate. Tip your pelvis. Imagine that your pelvis is a bowl and it's tipped forward on its base, spilling its contents out to the front. Exaggerate that. Tip it further forward. You might find that you've got some trouble back here. That's all helpable. Okay? Now tip it the other way. See if you can spill the pelvis backwards. And feel what that feels like. You might feel tight through the tissues and hips here. You might feel stretching through here. And now that you've felt both too far forward and too far back, see if you can find more neutral, more balanced on its base, if this again is a bowl. That should be a little bit more underneath you as well, as opposed to way out behind you. Okay? Your feet parallel, your knees pointing along with your toes, and your pelvis more neutral underneath you. Now again, we don't want to be holding tight. It's not about rigid, but we want to start asking our tissues to allow this sort of position. That should allow your sacrum, the big flat triangle bone here at the base of your spine, that should be more flat. For a lot of us, it's twisted and tilted. We'll start bringing it more flat by doing this. And once you start feeling that, now you're ready to stand against the wall. You don't have to have your feet up against the wall. You can be out a few inches, maybe even as much as a foot out. Whatever works for you to find your balance. I like to have my feet farther out at first. It helps my back settle in and not worry about my legs so much. But eventually, you can stand closer. Okay? So, again, check in with your pelvis. Make sure it's more neutral, balanced on its base, and then allow your sacrum, the tailbone back here, to set against the wall. It should, I'm going to move off that light switch, it should be kind of flat against the wall. If you're too far tipped forward, now you're just setting your butt against the wall. That's not what we want. If you're tipped too far backwards, you're setting your back against the wall. Set your sacrum against the wall. And as you allow your body to settle in, and here's where I like the feet out, if you allow your body to settle in, you'll start to feel these joints around your sacrum aching, creaking, as they start to try and shift to allow that to happen, but your spine has been bunched up. Breathe and soften and know that that achiness is okay. Soften through it. And this may take a while, a couple of weeks, a bit at a time. Spend 5 to 10 minutes if you can, but if you can't do that, spend just 30 seconds if that's all you can do. Let that build up. Let your body get more used to it. It starts to settle against the wall, and that will start to become easier. When that's okay, next you want to get not your shoulder blades, you want to get your low ribs against the wall. And what you'll notice when you do that is that your back's been, again, more compressed and twisted than you thought. This is harder than you realized. Set your low ribs against the wall, and that's going to pop your shoulders and your neck forward. And what will happen, and why that happens, is because everybody's so far curved forward and rigid in their thoracic spine and their rib cage, their shoulders and their neck are so far forward that we try and get good posture and stand up straight. We think we're doing this, but what's actually happening? The ribs are popping out back here and we're sitting there like this. We're not bending, we're too bent, we're too rigid, we're not straightening through here. We get stuck here in the rib cage and everything else hurts, and we think it's the shoulder, we think it's the neck, but it's actually the rib cage. It's too far bent forward and stuck. So we'll sit back here and we'll pop our neck, I smacked my head. We'll pop our low ribs away from the wall, trying to get good posture. And again, that's not better. So this is where we're going to catch you cheating with this. Put your low ribs against the wall and get something like a pen that you can put against your low ribs and hold against the wall. If that pen drops, you're cheating. Okay? Now that you're holding that pen against the wall with your low ribs, you're going to lift your sternum. You're going to lift through your front. And this is going to be hard. You don't have the muscles developed anymore. The tissues are stiff. Your ribs aren't used to moving, and they should move. This is going to be hard. You're going to feel like you can't do it. Imagine that you can. As you try, imagine that it's starting to. If that's all you can get, it's still going to be helpful. Keep doing that, and your muscles will get stronger. You'll start to find it. Find it. Lift through your sternum. And breathe through your ribs. Let your ribs expand. It is not shoulders back. Lift through the ribs. And don't worry about your neck right now. It's going to be forward. Don't even try to get your head to the wall. It's too soon. But eventually, as you breathe through your rib cage and get the movement here that should be happening, these lower ribs stay down, these ribs start coming up, you can bring your upper back towards the wall without losing the pen. And eventually you can get your head to the wall. And when you do get your head to the wall, it shouldn't be like this. It's not the top of your head, it should be the back of your head to the wall, which means tuck your chin. Bring the back of your head towards the wall. And not stressing, not straining, it should eventually be an easy thing, but this is going to take some time. And just breathe. This can take a lot of work, a lot of focus. You'll feel all sorts of imbalanced tensions through your legs. One leg will be gripping and holding tighter than the other. Just breathe and allow as much of that excess tension to melt away as you can. It will get better and easier as you keep repeating this. Eventually, you can put your arms, wrists, back of your wrists to the wall. You can eventually bring them up without losing that pen. You can eventually move the arms all along. You can reclaim a lot of that mobility, and you should be able to do this while still breathing easily. If you catch yourself holding your breath, back off. Okay? Whenever you're done with your daily practice for that, just simply stand away from the wall, and you will probably find you're standing a little taller, a little easier. Go ahead and enjoy that. Walk around, see how that feels. It should feel easy. Good posture is good because it works well, not because we said it works. Anyway, take care, try that, let us know how it goes. Thanks.